We have our first rainy day of the winter here. We have summer rainy days, but it's very, very rare to have winter rainy days, especially this time. With climate change, everything is unpredictable now. So our first winter rainy day here on the banks of Mother Ganga. It's so beautiful to be with you all. As always, we'll start with one of the questions that have come in from our global family from all over the world, and remind them that they are here with us, even if they're not here physically. We feel them. We know you're with us. Where does your self-esteem come from? Great question. So, self-esteem typically for people is confidence in what they can do. I have self-esteem because I know I'm smart, or I know that I'm talented, I'm qualified. But that isn't really self-esteem. If you look at the word, it's esteem for the self, not for what I've acquired, what I've accumulated in terms of knowledge or skills or abilities or titles or talents. It's actually for myself. So self-esteem comes from knowing, regardless of what talents I may have, regardless of what degrees or titles or abilities I may have, who I am is perfect. Doesn't mean I don't need work. It's that beautiful, beautiful spiritual paradox. We are constantly working spiritually to unfold, to blossom, to open, to go deeper. And simultaneously we are aware that we are exactly perfect in this moment. And the self-esteem comes from not what I'm learning and acquiring, but from who I am. The things that steal our self-esteem are usually comparing and contrasting to others. Oh, this one is so much better at this. This one is so much funnier. This one is so much smarter. This one is so much prettier. This one is so much richer or more successful. But to do that is ignorance. Okay? I'm not saying it's bad. It's normal, it's natural, but it's ignorance. And our whole path is from ignorance to wisdom, from falsehood to truth, from darkness to light. And so that ignorance that's comparing us would be like a rose saying, oh, why am I not like a jasmine? Why am I so big and red instead of little and white? Why do I grow on these bushes with thorns instead of these beautiful vines? But the rose doesn't. And the jasmine doesn't compare to the rose. One animal doesn't compare to another. One type of tree doesn't compare to another. They understand that in nature, there's this beautiful diversity. And each is perfect, even though each is different. And that's where our self-esteem comes, is knowing I'm different than you and you and you and you. I'm different. And there are going to be some things that I can do a lot less well than you can. Some things that I have a lot less of. And yet, who I am in my selfness is full and perfect. Because God's created me and God doesn't make mistakes. And then we realize, well, there are some things that I have that are more than others. We start to understand that. But that still isn't the source of our self-esteem, because then we fall back into the trap of it's about what I have or what I can do. So the self-esteem has to be rooted in this perfection of the self, like a rose, like a jasmine, like an apple tree, like an orange tree. Each being perfect, but each being different. And so don't ever let anyone convince you that in order to be worthy of occupying your place on planet Earth, you need to achieve this or do that or accomplish this or have that. That's ignorance. It's also marketing. It's what our marketing tells us. You should look like this, wear these clothes, go here, go there. We're constantly being indoctrinated to believe that there is something lacking in us. It's a brilliant marketing technique. We are then very likely to buy whatever they're selling. But the dilemma becomes that we also buy the message. We buy the teaching that there is something lacking in us. And so many people today are suffering from lack of self-esteem. And then, of course, what do? They shop more. Because the advertisements say, if you have this, then you'll feel good about yourself, you'll be beautiful, successful. The neighbors will be jealous. Or I go out and I decide I'm going to get this degree or this diploma or this title or that career. And again, nothing wrong with it. Do those things, sure. But don't do them thinking they're going to make you more worthy. Who you are is that perfect being, whether it's a rose, a jasmine, an apple tree, an orange tree, whatever it may be. It's perfect as you. And that's something everyone needs to know. God doesn't make mistakes. The universe doesn't make mistakes. However you are, it's how you're supposed to be. Does anyone here have any questions? Yes.
How we came to know that why we
Just
are...
one sec, वो mic देंगे आपको.
Ma'am, how we will came to know that what is the purpose of my life? How will I came to know this thing?
So the purpose of each of our lives is to realize the truth of who we are. That is why we have taken birth. That's our highest dharma, highest purpose. To know who you are experientially. Not just aham brahmasmi. Right? We can chant it, but the point is to know it, not just to chant it. So to know experientially who you are, that's why you take birth. To actually know aham brahmasmi, not just chant it. When we meditate on the mantra of Soham, well, it's not just a mantra to meditate upon, it's actually something to know. I am that. That awareness is why we have taken birth. That is our purpose. That's universal. And then we each, all in our lives, have different sub-purposes, you could say. And those have to do with different characteristics we have, different interests, different abilities, different cultures we're born in. different situations we're born in. And by the way, it changes throughout our life as well. This idea that we each have one purpose, kind of stamped on our rear end as we come through the womb, is really a fallacy of the modern New Age movement. We've got a New Age movement telling you, pay me this much money, I will help you figure out your purpose. Oh, you don't know your purpose? Come here. For just a few $1,000s, I will tell you your purpose. We don't all have one singular purpose as though it's a career or it's a job or a vocation or a hobby or a relationship. The one purpose we have is wake up. Know who you are. Live it. And then, we have sub-purposes as well that vary. When we talk about our dharma, for example, well, different times of life we have different dharmas. In our student years, our dharma is different. Our householder years, dharma is different. But even during different phases of life, we have different dharmas simultaneously, right? We have a dharma as a child to our parents. We have a dharma to our children as their parent. We have a dharma to our spouse if we're married. We have a dharma to our community. And then we even have other dharmas as well that are kind of individual, right? Like my dharma on that individual level is to be a sannyasi, to be a renunciant, to live here in an ashram in India, sharing love and peace and being an instrument for the divine to flow. Someone else's dharma is going to be very different based on where they live, based on what they're meant to be doing. And that it arises in our life. It's not that there's an equation to figure it out. What it requires is simply being open. I always say, this is my favorite way to think about it, a caterpillar doesn't need a degree or a course or a training to become a butterfly. A seed doesn't need a course or a training to become a tree and give fruit. All they need is to be quiet enough that when that sign or signal from the universe comes that says, climb the tree, now weave the cocoon, now sit still while I liquefy you. Now burst forth and jump and fly. They need to be able to hear that and have faith in it, right? We never see a butterfly kind of back down the tree because it's too afraid to jump out of the cocoon. So it navigates its way back down the branch and climbs down the tree. You never see it. They respond. The seed sprouts. Some sign comes, some signal comes that says, I'm going to crack you open right now. Sprout. And it does. So I am deeply convinced that there is no God or system in the universe that makes any sense that would give that kind of wisdom and knowing to a caterpillar and a seed, but not us. So clearly we also have a way of knowing. We just need to be quiet. And we need to be still. And we need to hear it. The problem for so many of us is we're we're so noisy inside. There's so much going on inside that we can't hear. So to find that sub-purpose, you could say, other than waking up and realizing the truth of who you are, right? And other than your relationships, and your duty to them, your dharma in them. What's that other purpose, that unique purpose? Well, just be still. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Meditate, pray. But keep your heart open. That's the critical point. Keep your heart open. If I didn't have my heart open, there is no way I would be sitting in front of you in orange robes today. This purpose was as far from anything I ever could have possibly imagined I was here on earth for. But thank God I kept my heart open. Thank God I had taken a vow that said I will keep my heart open. Because then I could hear. And then I wasn't going to run away when that voice said, you must stay here. Otherwise, we run. We become like the butterfly that's like, I don't think I can fly. I'm just going to scooch my way down the tree. Because it's scary. But when we can hear, and when we have faith, then it becomes apparent to us. So you'll find that. But in the meantime, focus on the bigger purpose. That we know from now. Find that truth. Keep asking in your meditation, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And it'll arise. Yes.
Thank you. Is it
If
necessary?
you'd like, I'm so sorry. If you'd like to move up a little, you can move up a little. I know we're getting a bit crowded in the back there. If people would like to move up, feel free.
Is it necessary to learn formal way to meditate, or even without any formal training? Can we meditate on our own, and in which case should we meditate on our breath or some mantra or what it is going to?
Yeah, you definitely don't need formal meditation instruction, but it certainly helps to have some instruction in terms of some idea of what you're doing, what you're going to focus on. And there isn't a right answer. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of different lineages, different schools of meditation that are going to teach it in different ways. The most common, though, are going to focus on your breath or a mantra, or both. I know I do both. An awareness of the breath and a chanting of the mantra together. I have an overactive mind, so it needs both of those things. And both of them together are very powerful. But what happens over time is, as you are watching the breath, and you're just allowing that awareness to really merge with the breath, and the mantra is chanting, the awareness is merging with the breath, what happens slowly is the breath seems to stop. Comes to a very, very almost imperceptible experience. And that's okay. What happens to a lot of people then is their mind goes, oh, I've lost my breath. And then they start again with, no. Don't worry. What's supposed to happen has happened. we're focusing on the breath or focusing on a mantra as a way to take us across what you can think of as this ocean of illusion. And so we need something to carry us across, something to put our awareness and attention on other than what someone said, what I'm going to have for breakfast, the work I have to do, who I'm angry at. And so we put it on the breath, or we put it on a mantra. And the mantra, of course, has other powerful powers as well. The mantra is that ability to alchemically transform us as well. But they serve as vehicles to carry us across. So as you're meditating, if you're being aware of the breath, and you notice the breath has stopped, that's all good. It's all good, don't worry. Just allow yourself to be in that place. That's the spaciousness that ultimately we're going for. But if the mind kicks in and says, oh my God, I've lost my breath, then I'm back into pranayama rather than meditation. And what happens with the mantra also, you'll notice, is you're chanting it with great attention. And then slowly it seems to be sort of chanting itself. And you become aware of the chanting of the mantra rather than this focused attention, intention on I am chanting my mantra. So again, it becomes less of a doing and more of a happening. And then of course the mind will wander. And then you bring it back to the breath and back to the mantra. And then you get into that beautiful spaciousness again. And you allow yourself to be there without letting the mind engage by saying, oh yeah, there's that spaciousness she talked about. Or, oh, what happened to my breath? In that spaciousness is where we experience that truth. So any form of meditation, I always say, there's no right or wrong way to meditate unless you're hitting the snooze button. That is a wrong way to meditate. If the alarm goes off to get up to meditate and you hit the snooze button and go back to sleep, it's the wrong way to meditate. Otherwise, whatever works for you. Whatever works. Yeah. Just 1 second. हम वापस आएंगे आपके पास पहले आपका. Then we'll come back to you.
Hi. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for all your grace and comfort that you offered my family while they were here. Having been orphaned as an adult now, I wonder if you can offer any words of comfort.
When we lose loved ones, especially parents, it's painful. And that's okay. That's okay. There's a beautiful place for those tears. There's a beautiful place for that pain. Because it means we loved so much. And we lived so much in that love. You know, one of the great tragedies, I think, across the world, but especially it seems in India, is there's this kind of aversion to tears, right? And so if I were really close to you and I were very Indian, I'd be like, like as though somehow the beautiful water streaming down your face needed to be stopped up or dammed up. That there was something inherently wrong with that. And I don't think that's true at all. That experience within us of pain, when we lose loved ones, when we lose parents, is beautiful. It means we've loved so much that we are palpably aware of the loss. The solution is not to get over it. The solution is to, and as though there were a solution, but the solution to the crippling pain, let's call it that, the crippling, paralyzing pain. The solution to that is to allow the self to readjust in the absence of that being. So we don't push away pain. We don't pretend we don't feel it. We don't try not to think about them. What a disservice, right? I mean, they gave you life. Oh, I'm not going to think about them? Of course you're going to think about them. But we allow the self to readjust in their absence. The brain is amazing. Whatever we do, it changes our brain. So for example, if I take these two fingers and I tape them together for a week, my brain will actually change accordingly. If I take my right arm, and I'm right-handed, and I put it in a sling and tie it to my chest for a week, and do everything with my left hand, my brain will change. It readjusts to that which there is and that which there is not. It has assumed, we no longer have a right arm. Okay, let's adjust. And it's not so easy in the beginning, but as people who have limbs amputated or had a broken limb for a long time know, writing with your non-dominant hand is a lot easier 8 weeks after your arm went into a cast than it was 8 hours after your arm went into a cast. And if you're young, it happens even faster because the brain is just faster when we're young. But it happens at any age. And I mention this because our experience of self does the same thing. In the same way that when we have a new relationship, think about if you fall in love, you get married, you have a new best friend, whatever it may be, but some new, deep, beautiful relationship. You have a child. Some new relationship arises in your life. You find a guru. The self reorganizes itself around that new relationship. How I understand myself today as a wife or a mother or a disciple or a new best friend is different than how I understood myself and how I moved through the world prior to that relationship. Right? Everything in me has sort of adjusted around it. In the same way we adjust around loss. Something that was there no longer is there. The self will adjust. It doesn't mean we get over it. It doesn't mean we stop feeling sad. But it means there is a whole new way of being that we develop. And that's what you've got to let yourself do. And as you say, being orphaned in adulthood. Well, it's the cycle of life when things go appropriately. It's sad, but it's a lot less sad than parents who lose their child. Which is the only way not to be orphaned as an adult is that your parents lose you. And so the way things are supposed to go is we get orphaned as adults. And yes, of course it's sad. We love them. We miss them. And yet that rearranging of the self is so powerful. It's so powerful to realize, okay, I've spent all of these decades of my life depending upon my mom or my dad or the collectiveness of the two. Now I find it within me. And what you'll find is they are in you. You're not alone. They're in you. And there's this whole universe that supports you. The lap of the universe opens up to you. Right? It's like, in a way, the story of Dhruv. Right? He gets sent off into the forest. He wants to sit on his father's lap. Gets told by his stepmother, no, you're not allowed. You want to sit on his lap, pray to take birth from me in your next birth, then you can sit on his lap. And his father says, she's right. Not about that. But ultimately, the lap you want to sit in is the lap of God. Dhruv goes off into the forest. And ultimately there he is in Lord Vishnu's lap. But it took getting thrown out of the lap of his father in order to find that lap of God. So find that lap of the universe now. It's holding you. It's always been there. You've just never needed to look for it like that. But you'll find it. You'll feel it. And you'll find them inside of you. And when those moments of deep sadness arise, that heartbreaking sadness, just stand there. Stand there literally and just raise your arms. Raise your arms to the universe and allow that to flow through you into the earth. Through you into the earth. The sadness, the pain. Just open to it. Yeah, there it is. And what you'll find is it'll flow through you. It'll be incredibly powerful for a few moments. And then it's flowed into the earth. Mother Earth has taken it. It's like lightning into the earth. But open yourself to it. And what you'll find is it haunts you a lot less. It paralyzes you a lot less. It's the pushing away that paralyzes us. That knot in the heart, that knot in the stomach, that bowling ball feeling inside of us. Just open. Okay, God, here we go. Here we go. And just allow it to flow through. Yeah. And lastly, we'll take your last question.
Thank you so much. Just in continuation with meditation, one small thing. Is it okay to meditate in the night after dinner before going to bed?
It's absolutely okay to meditate anytime, anywhere, in any circumstance. However, what you will find as you start meditating is there are certain situations in which it comes very beautifully, very easily, where you find in just a few moments, you're there in that place. That you've been carried across very smoothly and easily. And then there are times and there are moments where it feels like you're really having to work it. The mind keeps being distracted. You have to keep bringing it back. Even if you're able to keep the mind on the breath, it still feels like a task rather than a pathway. And a lot of that has to do with what's happening chemically and physically in our bodies. Because our brains are the place where we meditate from. I mean, we say, the heart, the soul, but ultimately it's the brain that's got our eyes closed. It's the brain chanting the mantra. It's the brain being aware of the breath. It's the brain knowing you've been distracted. And all of the chemicals, both those throughout the day, as well as those that change based on my fatigue level, based on the food in me, they impact us. I know for me, for example, when I first came to India, people here eat dinner very late at night. And especially we have arti, then we have satsang. And in the summer times, it was 9 o'clock before it was dinner. And what I discovered was that while I was young and I could digest it okay, I didn't feel heartburn or anything like that. When I got up early the next morning to meditate, my food still, it felt like it was still kind of there on some level. And I didn't feel light. I didn't feel like getting up and meditating. And what I have found over the years is, by eating late at night, I know I am impacting my morning meditation. So that's on a personal level what I have found. Meditating on a full stomach, I think in general is quite difficult. But again, there's nothing wrong with an evening meditation. What I would suggest is try to eat dinner a little bit earlier. Try to give yourself a couple of hours between dinner and when you meditate. A before bed meditation is beautiful. It's beautiful. We all should do it. But it just means you should try to eat a little earlier. Because you'll find that when you sit down, you're burping, stomach's making noise. And it's very hard to be not so grounded in the body when it's making all kinds of noises. This is why, when we fast, when we observe upwas, why it's such an auspicious way to meditate. When there's lightness in the body, the meditation comes much more easily. So experiment. You'll figure it out. Try different times of the day. Some people are more morning people. I've had people say, I cannot meditate in the morning. I fall right back asleep. Okay. So A, it means you're probably not getting enough sleep. But B, all right. So try meditating later in the day. But see what works for you. Ideally, the morning and the night are best. Those 2 times are beautiful. Sunset is also a beautiful time. But any time that you can sit clearly is a beautiful time. Wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. And a beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. So much love to you all, and I look so forward to being together again tomorrow.